No Cap Fund presents The Representation Station. All right, Walter, we are live once again with The Representation Station. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Matt Beat, otherwise known as Mr. Beat, who is a YouTuber. Oops, pulled up the wrong screen here. Of course, right as my intro. Oh, I lost my intro, man. I'm sorry. Okay, so he's
actors.
The beauty of being 5 minutes late is
without my script. I don't know what happened to my screen. I'm gonna come back around. Let's go to so Mr. Beat is with us on the show. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, but first let's get to Walter Clapp, our president. Please share a little bit about yourself with the group.
Hello, everyone. My name is Walter Clapp. I'm the resident lawyer. Don't hate me, even if you hate the lawyers. I study what it means to be represented by lawyers, by other professionals, by your elected representatives. And we declare here and on the website that we lack representation. So go check it out at www.y435.org. I need to flip that around. I don't know if you can read that. Hopefully you can hear me.
All right, Roger.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Roger Scott. I'm the resident CPA. I'm the treasurer for the group and the tax filer. I'm in North Carolina, and I'm just an angry citizen. I'm angry that my representation has been eroded for a century. I'm angry that people don't talk about it, that it's not like an issue. And I just, I'm going to add my energy to the calmer energy of Jeff and Walter, and we're going to build something that smacks people and wakes them up.
That's awesome. And I'm Jeff Mayhew. I'm just a regular dad who kind of, went through this transformation of self-reflection and self-education and found out that we had a representation problem and somebody needed to do something. I didn't see anybody doing anything at the time, so I just started talking to people and doing what I could. And that brings us to our guest today. And I found my script, okay? So it's okay now. We welcome Mr. Beat to the show. Matthew Beat is a multifaceted creator from Kansas, a YouTuber, video producer, educator, and musician. With experience teaching a range of subjects from grades 7 to 12, Matt has expanded his classroom to a global audience through his YouTube channels, Mr. Beat and The Beat Goes On. He is also a Dole Institute of Politics Spring 2025 Fellow. Mr. Beat, thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. I'm also just an ordinary dad, also an angry citizen, and also I realize that the root of all of our problems with politics and government comes down to lack of proper representation. So, yes, kindred spirits, I'm so happy to be with you.
Well, thank you for coming. Could you just tell a little bit about your story? Like, how did you get from school teacher to world educator?
Well, my first career was as a broadcaster. I was in radio and television right out of college. Like 2004 was my first degree in journalism, and I was kind of having a quarter life crisis and decided I didn't want to do that. And that was also like the year before YouTube started. So this is before YouTube. And then I went back to school eventually to become a social studies teacher because I always loved, especially American history, geography, and economics. Those are all like those three things. In which I went back to school to become a teacher, and this was up in Nebraska, and so I got certified back down in Kansas. That's where I currently live. I've lived here most of my life. And I taught for 12 years in the classroom, both middle school and high school, like you were saying. But at the same time, I was like, well, I still love to make videos, and I also love to make music. And so I would bring my guitar to the classroom or keyboard sometimes and sing to my students. I would just do all kinds of crazy stuff just to get their attention mostly because, I wanted them to like pay attention and get into this stuff. And the videos were just meant to make the content more engaging. And so they were never meant to be something I did like as a serious professional. But over the years, like it just kind of grew. The channel, the Mr. Beat channel grew. And it's just called Mr. Beat because that's just what my students called me. That's people ask me like, why is it called Mr. Beat? Well, it's just my name. It's like, well, that's what I was at school. Yeah, and then especially during the pandemic, the channel grew with a lot of teachers playing my videos in the classroom for their students, and uh, yeah, just kind of also this whole other audience of people that kind of untapped. There's a lot of people out there who are not in school anymore that want to learn about
Mm.
government and American history, and yeah, like I think a lot of your audience probably as well. They're curious about this stuff, and so that's really my bread and butter these days. Like it's that's who I mostly make videos for.
I love that. I would probably fit into that category. I was out of school. I kind of had a what did you call it? A tri-life or a midlife,
Quarter
or
life
not a
crisis.
quarter life crisis. I guess I had that. I was about 35. I decided like I didn't quite like where I was going with things. Made a lot of changes in my life, and it led me kind of down the self path of reflection and education because I was curious about things. And like you, I also loved American history. It was something that my grandfather really instilled in me at a younger age. He was always talking about history. There's history books all around his house. We watched Cronkite on TV constantly. The old replays. So it was a good time. But for our first topic here tonight, since you're a musician and you've got all those really fantastic songs, if you're listening out there, go to his YouTube channel. Check it out. He's also got a website out there with all of his music, and I believe you're on Spotify as well. And
Yes.
you've basically got a song for every president of the United States, right?
Correct.
And they're incredibly accurate and informative and so entertaining, like just ridiculously entertaining. Especially for nerds like me who happen to read presidential biographies. So it was like, So one of the things that Walter and I talk about a lot is the production Hamilton and how there's no like other side of the story. Like we say that's kind of like the Federalist story, but we really need the like Madisonian story as well. And we talked about this a little bit in our pre-interview, and you had mentioned that you don't even really like Broadway musicals, which shocked me, considering you kind of seem like the type of guy who could write one. So I challenged you. I said, hey, would you consider writing a Madisonian Hamilton? And you said that maybe you would think about it. I'm curious, since our pre-interview, have you thought about it? Because I've thought about it a lot. I've got a whole outline here with all the different points. I thought maybe we could talk about it. I was just really excited about it. I wanted to see what you've been cooking up.
This really could be the genesis of something. I did bring this up to my daughters after we talked, and they got excited because they love musicals. They both, yeah. But again, I mean, sure, I don't like to watch musicals. In fact, when I watched Hamilton, I was like, okay, meh. But I think that if I'm actually creating it, that's a different story. Yeah, because like, especially since I just made this, I'm actually currently working on a video about James Madison, and I just wrapped up my Thomas Jefferson video. Yeah, so I have all the research. I have a lot to say about Madison.
I mean, there is a lot to say about Madison, both good and bad. And the way that I outlined this, I think I highlight the good and the mistakes. I don't want to use the word bad because I think for it to be bad, would have to have nefarious intent. And I think he was just a person trying to solve problems a lot of times. I don't necessarily agree with all of his decisions, but I agree with most of his decisions. I think what's really important about the Madison story, especially cultural today, especially if you visited Montpelier, which have you been to Montpelier before?
Yeah,
Okay.
we all went there. Yeah. Did you guys?
I have. I live nearby. I don't think the other two have.
I have not. I've been to Mount Vernon and Monticello, but I haven't hit Montpelier yet. It's on my list.
Yeah, we went. It was pretty cool. We went last month.
Oh yeah. So I went about 2 months ago now, and they try to capture like the story of Madison and his family and the plantation, and I think that's a really good place for the Broadway musical to start, is showing the childhood of a wealthy plantation owner, showing a different side of America and kind of what inspired him or what provided him the foundation to end up where he was. You would go from the childhood, you would go to the education of Madison with Princeton and Witherspoon. That's an important time in his life. Plus, Madison was also one of those guys that was really self-educated. He spent a lot of time reading on his own, John Locke, Montesquieu, and I think highlighting this is really important. And then things get really interesting because of the Revolutionary War. You've got revolutionary politics. You've got he's working in the state government. He works on religious freedom, and then you go into the building the republic, writing the Constitution, which that could be, you can bring in a whole cast of characters, right? That could be the big center point of the whole play, right? And then you go on to the back half of his life, Madison the partisan, right? You get into some of like the mistakes maybe that he made, the Jeffersonian error, the embargo, the Aliens and Sedition Act, the Louisiana Purchase, and then a wartime president, the War of 1812, the Second Bank of the United States, and then finally like his retirement, securing the Republic, him and Dolly finishing the notes, right? I think this is such an important part of American history, and it would be a great way to close out showing the relationship between him and Dolly. I think she's just a fantastic figure in American history too.
I actually just don't. I hate to cut you off, but I think
Go
a
ahead.
good way to frame the whole thing would be writing those notes. They could be the narrators.
Ooh,
and that
see,
could be
this
like-
is why I knew this is
Let's
the guy to
recall
do it. I knew this is the guy to do it.
All right. So does this mean we're putting all our energies in a Madison musical now? We're not doing a Washington musical anymore? Because I'm having a hard time keeping up.
It's always been a Madison musical in my eyes.
Okay, I thought we were talking about Washington at one point, but that's okay.
Walter, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, Washington was my idea, so I will speak up in defense. And, I think they go hand in hand, obviously. They were there together. And I think if this central climactic picture is around, the signing of the Constitution, and I think Washington's standing up to defend, better representation as being kind of the only sacred right that he cared about. You can call it whatever you want. I just want that image in every American's mind.
Yeah,
that
it makes sense. Madison would be the foil for Hamilton, so yeah, it's a better theme, I guess.
Well, and
I
Jeff
feel
is obsessed with Madison. I think it's the other.
I wasn't going to go there, but okay.
I'm not.
I don't know, Matt. What
obsessed
do
with
you think as a redux to Hamilton, Madison versus Washington?
Well, it could be just that whole side of, oh yeah, the Ketchum book, yeah. I referenced that one. That's a good one. I think just overall, the thing that's kind of misrepresented often about Madison is that he often gets lumped in automatically with the Democratic Republicans and the anti-federalists, the ones who were kind of just automatically, like kind of the anti-Hamiltons. But he was kind of in the middle. He was a very pragmatic guy. Like in some ways, he was the most diplomatic founding father we had, because he was bringing all these people together in rooms, making deals behind the scenes. Like he was like one of the first people to show up in Philadelphia before the convention, just networking. And he kind of has this also reputation as a quiet guy. He's tiny and he's sickly and he's soft spoken, but no, he was outgoing. That's another myth about him. So he wasn't afraid to makes all these deals with all these other guys. So yeah, his pragmatism is maybe hard to dramatize, because you always want, you want the Jefferson versus Hamilton rap battle going on. So I don't know where that would fit in.
Yeah, that to me is like where Washington is just this towering figure in American history. And it's also, the other reason I think Washington is because if this were to happen relatively quickly, it's somebody that this president and the next president, it's somebody that they lionize too. Every American president, I think, looks to George Washington with some amount of respect.
Yeah.
So I think you make a good point about that. And we kind of talked about it on the phone about Madison is he's guy in the middle. He's not as divisive as you would think. I do find it funny, at least sometimes in the letters between Jefferson and Madison. Jefferson is telling Madison, he's like, just get out your pen and cut him cut him down, right? He's telling him to go after people, right? But Madison finds himself in between battles a lot. And that's the really intriguing part about the play, because you get to tell so many different stories. Madison's always in the room, but the other two people are fighting, and Madison is bringing them together. And I think that's a lesson that America needs to learn, right? The lesson we learned from Hamilton was fight and win. And I don't think that's the lesson America needs to learn right now. We need to learn how to compromise.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I like that.
All right. I appreciate you indulging me in my Madisonian Hamilton play, and
my wheels
I'm
are still turning.
I know, and we're going to come back to this, but I've got some questions here tonight on the show, audience. Just so you know, we're going to do like an around the horn style. We tested this out a couple weeks ago. I've got 4 questions here. I'm going to ask it to Mr. Beat first, but then Roger and Walter are going to chime in with their answers as well, and then at the end, we're going to come back to Mr. Beat's music because it's just really cool, and his YouTube shows are really cool. So we're going to come back to that. So
we get to cheat off the teacher. Sweet.
That's right. That's what we're here for. No Cap Fund. We're trying to educate people. We got to bring on the teachers to educate people. So, Mr. Beat, you mentioned it in your intro. You said that representation, or a lack of representation, is kind of the root of all of our problems. We obviously agree with you here, but could you explain to the audience why you believe it's is the root of our problems?
Well, all of us have different issues we're passionate about, like I think a lot of people, for example, are passionate about healthcare, like a lot of people want us to have some kind of more protections for healthcare and everything. In fact, if you poll a lot of Americans on this very issue, a lot of people think the government should do more. What that exactly looks like is a different debate, but really there's this overwhelming consensus that like at least 75% of Americans thinks it needs to be reformed. And then you look at Congress, they're the ones who can reform it. They make the laws, they change the laws that are in place, and yet there's not even a discussion. It's not even brought up at all. And so that's just one of many examples where we have this disconnect of, you have people that care about an issue a lot, and I'm not just saying, just a small group of people. I'm talking, this is like a mainstream, something that people are always talking about. Another example is housing, like the housing crisis is huge. Like, it doesn't matter who you talk to, this is a big concern. And yet there's just nothing. Especially the Senate, nothing. Doesn't even get brought up at committees, And so I think it doesn't matter what issue you're passionate about. At the root of it is we have people in Congress that are not incentivized to respond to their constituents because of the system we have. They're not, most of them are not bad people. They're just caught up in this horrible system, which has never been perfect, but it definitely used to be a lot better. When we say the good old days, oftentimes the good old days never really happen. But in case of representation, they absolutely did. I'm sure you guys agree. Like, we used to have better representation. So, I think that's really, it doesn't matter what the issue is. Like, you can always tie it back to, like, whatever you want to happen, it starts with who is representing you. And if they're not even like responding to you, then what's the point? Like, I get why so many people just automatically disengage, tune out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Roger, your turn.
It's kind of along the same lines. The phrase I've used, you've probably seen it written before, is no matter which particular governmental reform you support, the chances of success increase when we uncap the House. We need a lot of reform. I think, this big infrastructure bill that was passed under the previous administration, it was so big, so big, so big. Well, that's what happens when you don't do anything for 40 or 50 years. You get hit with a big bill at the end. It's kind of the same thing here. We've got all this pressure that's built up, and we need to marginalize the extremists so that people of goodwill can actually accomplish some of the things that need to be accomplished. And so we have to marginalize the extremists, and part of that is uncapping the House.
And by marginalizing the extremists, the way that Madison saw that is by extending the sphere. right? And because if you brought more people into the room and you believe that people are overall good and would at least come together for self-interest of like safety and security, then
Mhm.
you believe that that would marginalize the extremist, and that's why uncapping the House. Walter, your turn, buddy.
Absolutely. I think for me, this it gets kind of spiritual, and it gets to the root of patriotism that I have for this country, and that I believe that the fundamental promise of America was that each individual in America receives a certain amount of free will. That we believe in that concept, and that you have this embodied in the Bill of Rights, right? And that also in the Bill of Rights was this fundamental right to representation, right? That the right to speak freely served the right to representation, which is your right to, I think, to educate your representative and be educated back using your voice, right? To petition for redress of grievances, to assemble a press and print things, to bear arms. I think in each of these we see, representation. It's just not enunciated. And it was meant to be. And again, it's the only time that George Washington spoke. And so I find that to be moving, right? That our founding battle cry was no taxation without representation. And to think that we have let this wallow away for 100 years, it's on us, right? It's on the people, right? We have no one to be angry about other than ourselves, right? And that's it. Like, you want to point fingers and bellow and be angry at this person or this group of people or that group of people. It's like, no, it's on us. I think ultimately our collective decision to be distracted, and it's ultimately it's our job to educate the people around us of ways to not be distracted, right? And to engage and to build a platform, hopefully, where people can engage on a more routine basis.
Don't forget, the first ever veto was by Washington on the issue of representation.
See, Roger, this is why I love having you here.
Well, and I think the best part of that is, like, I think every American can kind of understand that concept. We've all gone and tried to pay somebody for a service before. And when we don't get the value out of it, we do one of two things. We go somewhere else and we pay somebody different, or we just do it ourselves. A lot of times we end up doing it ourselves, especially if maybe we went to two bad people first. We get really frustrated. We go to YouTube, right? We learn about it. We watch videos, and then all of a sudden we're building our own dining room table. Okay, it's amazing what Americans can do when they focus on this issue. So I wholeheartedly agree. I love that. All right, Mr. Beat. When we talked, you talked about you mentioned earlier about reforms. So let's fast forward. We've uncapped the House, and now we have a little bit of space to make some reforms. Okay. You mentioned electoral reform in our conversation, and I was curious of what type of electoral reforms you think would be interesting to get into the debate to possibly promote going forward.
Obviously, uncapping the House is something, and which I didn't really even consider until more recently. It's kind of surprising. I taught for so long American government to high schoolers, and it's not something that even got across my radar until, like, man, I don't even remember, somewhere on social media I ran into someone, either one of you guys or someone adjacent to you. It's really not that
Probably
large.
the ghost of James Madison on Twitter. That's where I found out about it.
That's a great account. Yeah. Well, it's just crazy that I had never even realized that you didn't need to amend the Constitution. That was the big aha for me, because that also kind of solves a big problem I have with how we elect the president, which is the Electoral College, which of course was not meant to be that democratic. But I think these days most people think that they wish they had more democracy regarding the president. And I think that's a great first step to take, is like, yeah, just if you uncap the House, you have more representatives in there, you're going to have a better situation in terms of the Electoral College. Otherwise, I think the root of so many of the electoral issues we have is plurality voting, first past the post. So winner takes all. That's just not a good way to do things. And so some kind of proportional representation, I think, would be more ideal. I think as far as ending gerrymandering, I think proportional representation seems to be the least bad way to handle that. I mean, there's no perfect system, and there's also different ways to get to proportional representation. As far as, you could have ranked choice voting, you could have star voting, which is my personal favorite. Walter knows, or just approval voting. Yeah, like I mean, we could dive deeper into that if you want, but there, you still have it. Yeah, mine's back there. Yeah, heck yeah.
Sarah's in our orbit.
Spread the word. Yeah.
Sarah's going to be back on the show on September 15th for those who are listening. So make sure you put that on your calendar. We're going to be talking all about it.
Star voting. She's a star voting advocate for those
glad
who
that you
don't
had her
know.
on and having her back. She's amazing. But yeah, so those are a few things that I think that should be immediately addressed.
All right, so Roger, you went first last time. I'm going to come to Walter first this time. So we've uncapped the House. All right, so that reform's already happened. All right. Now you're talking about electoral reforms. Mr. Beat just mentioned two of them. He mentioned ranked choice voting and 5-star voting. Which one are you going for? What are you pushing for? Or do you think that we should stick where we are? You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I think I'm a fifth grader. You know, for me, uncapping the House is an event horizon past which we can't know exactly what's going to happen. I think we'll have rules changes in the House following an uncap, and we'll
I'm
also
asking you
have
to tell the future here, man.
a lot of legislation, very likely. But otherwise, there's just no way to know. And what I will say is that if I successfully uncap the House and I'm in that uncapped House, I will deliberate these issues with great zeal at that time.
Oh, so Walter's clearly running for president again someday because he just didn't answer the question. It's just like, I don't know what the future is going to hold because I don't know who's going to be supporting me. So I can't say anything right now because I got a lot of donors that I got to support later. That's pretty much what I just heard, Walter. Am I wrong? Mr. Beat, Roger, am I wrong? Is that not what I just heard?
You were incorrect. You were incorrect. Those are not the words that I spoke. That was a malicious paraphrase meant to smear.
What about gerrymandering, Walter?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think uncapping the House in the debate around gerrymandering, for me, focuses around, well, what does uncapping the House accomplish? It's like, well, it depends on the amount of the uncap, I think, at the federal level, and part of what you touched on is how people are kind of just distraught, and I talked a lot about learned helplessness, and the fact that I think a lot of it stems from this cap on the U.S. House, where that's who taxes you and that's who sends your daughters and sons to war. And if we can get an uncap, maybe you get people engaged again, right? Because they say, oh, like I actually get a say, like that's interesting. That I'm interested in that deal, right? Like I'm not going to just go into the woods and drink beer. I would like to show up, and so that reinvigoration of the American spirit or the American will, I think, can't be understated with just a singular proposal like uncapping the House. And so I would just say, like, let's do this one thing and see where that takes us. Putting them together in a bill, I think that it will happen, obviously. I think we're going to circulate bills, and I think people are going to add things to it, right? And that's what happens, right? And it's up to the current Congress to decide whether or not those things make it in. I think that something needs to happen so that the people feel more represented and most importantly, feel trust, right? I mean, my biggest thing that I keep going back to is trust is our fundamental currency in 2025. With AI coming, COVID in the rearview mirror, and 100 years of a capped House, right? Trust is in short supply. And so, rebuilding trust, or the gerrymandering debate, I think, really is about like a lack of trustiness in the system. It's like, this is just all a charade, right? Like Texas and Gavin Newsom are just like, having fisticuffs on the world stage, and scoring points that don't represent anyone. And so restoring some trust in the system, the economic value of that, it cannot be overstated. And so, I just believe in this so much that if you try to talk to me about another reform, I just can't help but talk about uncapping the House for the next 12 minutes.
I agree.
Well, Roger, you're going to have to, because that's the question. Which reform do you support? 5-star
Well,
voting or ranked choice voting? Come on, people. I need some answers here.
uh, I like either one. I think I'm leaning to the star voting more recently, um, but either one of those would be fine. They'd be an improvement, and just like the comment Matt made about plurality voting, the first past the post going to proportional representation. Yeah, I'm good with that too. I think we need to do a lot of reforms and a lot of right sizing. It's maybe not directly applicable to the question asked, but if we increase the size of the house, that's going to provide freedom of navigation. That's going to provide some relief of pressure for other things that need to be increased. I've talked, about the North Carolina House of Representatives before, but the Supreme Court, why do we have 9 instead of 13 when there's 13 districts? The courts are backlogged. The Supreme Court is overloaded. They can't take enough cases. We need to increase the size of the judiciary, period, but the Supreme Court specifically. So I would try to go on a program of right sizing since we're in the mood and we've just accomplished this right sizing of the house. Let's try to reform some other areas of government that are problematic as well.
I like the idea behind that. Balance is key. That brings us back to our first topic, James Madison. You talked about Mr. Beat, how he was kind of this guy in the middle. He was this guy of balance, of pragmatism, of solving problems. So I love that mindset. I don't love that you didn't answer my question directly. Nobody did. That's cool. Whatever. I just worked really hard on the questions. But
Star voting is the best.
That's right.
I
Mr. B
responded
did
directly.
Mr. B did say star voting was the best. That's what I was getting at. Since we have a star voting guest coming up, I was trying to lead everybody to one direction, but I will also point out, since Mr. Beat brought up proportional representation, we have Dustin Wall going to be on the show on September 29th. I think I have that date right. It's the last week of September, and he works at Fix Our Congress, and they support proportional representation. So that's going to be a topic on an upcoming show. I think there's a lot of good there. I just finished Lee Drutman's Doom Party Loop, or Breaking the Doom Party Loop, and it was fantastic. I knocked over some books.
Gravity.
The two-party Doom Loop, is that what it is?
The two-party Doom
Like
Loop.
a great book.
Yeah,
It
it's a
is a
great
great
title
book.
for a book, that's for sure.
It's a great book. It's got great artwork too. Hold on, let me show you.
Okay. See if we can find it in the... Oh, it was Jeff's birthday, everyone.
That's
yeah,
great.
it was my birthday. This is what I did on my birthday. I read this book. It was fantastic.
That's amazing.
Anyways, I think there's a lot of good there, and I think he makes all the points of why we need to uncap the House in the book. Right? He's already written the explanation. I think there's some other things to consider when it comes to proportional representation, but I'm going to hold that until we get Dustin on the show.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the next topic here.
Wait, can I get in? I got to say 2 quick things before.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just on because the court systems were touched. I think, again, whatever may come there, it needs to be decided by the uncapped House. I don't think we should be reforming the judiciary with a body that nobody trusts. But I do agree that we need to be increasing representation, aka adding judges to the federal judiciary. Right? That also, I think, is true.
Again, the hypothetical framed, the House was already uncapped. So
Okay.
the point was already. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
We got to get the mindset right. I know maybe I made too complicated of a question this time. All right, let's go to the next question. Hopefully it's better. Mr. Beat is a educator, and he's very passionate about civic education. That's obviously what he does on YouTube. I wonder, what else can we be doing as citizens to solve this civic education problem? And is there anything you think that your representatives should be doing to work on this civic education problem that we have?
Well, do you mean you're saying at the local level for representatives, right?
I mean, local or federal. We have a civic education crisis, right? Is the way that I look at it. And you being out there doing what you're doing recognizes this. So you're an individual who stepped up, right? What can other individuals do to step up? And is there any other body, either corporate or governmental, that should step up, and what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, all education is under attack right now. We're living in anti-intellectual times, unfortunately. But I think specifically for social sciences education, I think, there's this reactionary period also where we're like, if you teach the truth about the past, it's woke, whatever that means. I think we're starting to finally kind of get out of that period. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to I think at the local level, like city, county, state, you can go to school board meetings and you can let them know that civics is important. And there's 4 states right now, at least, I believe, last I checked, where it's not a requirement to pass a government class in order to graduate. So I think something as simple as going to a school board meeting and saying, "Hey, I think in order to graduate from high school, you should be able to pass a citizenship test, the same citizenship test that you need to pass in order to become a citizen." I have a friend right now who's becoming an American citizen, and just watching that whole process, I'm actually making a video about it as well. It's grueling, and I'm helping her study for the exam. She's lucky she has me as a tutor, but I mean, not everybody has that. It's tough, and most Americans would not be able to pass it. So making that, I think, a specific requirement. We could even start a whole movement saying you could have a slogan. I mean, even to run for public office, you shouldn't be able to run for public office if you can't pass a citizenship test. I mean, come on, because look who we have in charge at many levels of government these days. People who are not qualified. So yeah, I think that simple initiative that's specific and kind of resonates is a good way to start. You could just write an email to your local school board member or whatever, but it has to happen at the local level. As a reminder to our audience, the 10th Amendment is there for a reason. There's nothing in the Constitution about education. So every state has different rules. So check your state requirements.
I love that. I think that's a great, simple thing that everyday people can do is go to your school board meeting and ask them to make government a requirement to pass. The citizenship test, I think, is excellent. I've never researched it myself or seen one, but it sounds intriguing to me. Roger, coming to you next. What can an individual do to help the citizenship or the civic education problem?
Yeah, I look for opportunities, I guess. I mean, I've spoken before about how, this trip on Amtrak I took, I looked for an opportunity to educate a small group of people. There's local, this party, I've mentioned this down home, North Carolina parties. I've been to some of their meetings and talked to their people. Go to places where there are people who are already primed. No, not necessarily. I mean, the Amtrak thing, those people weren't primed for talking about government until they realized the train was late and started complaining about it. But if you go to places where people are engaged at a political level and just throw this nugget out there, say, "Hey, did you know Congress has been stealing our representation for a century?" And that, however you choose to frame it, I choose to frame it that way sometimes. But I'm looking for people who are engaged, who will stand still long enough to have a 3-minute conversation about this. And whenever you find one of those people, like Walter said, no matter what topic you want to engage on, if it touches on politics, I'm going to drive it back to uncapping the House. That's just get over it. Sorry, not sorry.
Well, we appreciate that here at No Cap Fund. Walter, what's your solution? Or what's one thing that an individual can do? You're on mute again, buddy.
One thing that an individual can do is go to www.y435.org, and you can join us as we collectively, in a group effort, try to influence, the education in between you and your federal government. And that's, I think, our fundamental premise, right, is that the education pathway between citizens and their federal government was meant to be located in the House of Representatives. That is broken. That is one of the primary causes of the education and civics breakdown in this country. And so to restore that, you need to join our movement. Also, learn Robert's Rules of Order. This is the lawyer in me talking, but if you can control a meeting, you've got the room, right? And so That's a very specific skill set that a person can acquire for very little money, and it really is a highly valuable skill. All the parliamentarians, they run the House of Representatives, the Senate floor, but also your local school board meeting. So if you're going to go get engaged, right, with your local school board, with your state representatives, understanding Robert's Rules of Order as amended by that local body is the key to being able to discuss what you want to discuss when you want to discuss it.
I love that, Walter. For those who pay attention to like local politics or past politics, this is where the power comes from some of the most powerful people in history. Lyndon Johnson understood how to take advantage of this. He wasn't necessarily the master at parliamentarian, but he made friends with the parliamentarian to learn it and make his way. This was Mitch McConnell's skill. Mitch McConnell, this was his ability. He mastered those rules and he used those to his advantage to get the things that he wanted to get done. We all know how that ended for him. All right. So
let me jump right back in. You can use AI, right? If you're lost with Robert's Rules, check out AI. The various models. They're not always going to be right, but again, if you just pay the $15 to go get yourself a hard copy, or use an online version that you can find, you can always cross-check it. And I talk about AI often. This is just a way. Another way to educate yourself, obviously, and to help create an advantage for us, for our team, right? Especially if you're joining up at y435.org, then feel free to use those tools.
Yes.
All right, Jeff.
I love it.
Back to you.
All right. So back to me. All right. So, Mr. Beat. Is it okay that I call you Mr. Beat? I've been calling you Mr. Beat the whole time. It says Matt there. I'm just like, man, it's just a cool name. I think it's a cool name. You mentioned, I think it was either while we were on the show or before we got on the show that that's just what your kids called you in school. So it's just Mr. Beat. It wasn't anything like crazy thoughtful, but it is like incredibly like apropos to what you're doing because you do music. And you've got this band, Electric Needle Room. I mentioned earlier about how you've made a song for all the presidents. They're fantastic. And I think your music is very unique. Even your non-government stuff, it's very unique. And I love the sound of it. Roger, our treasurer here, is a guitar enthusiast. And we were talking a little bit before you came on about what your music sounded like. So I'm going to pass it over to him. Roger, ask him what you were asking me, because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I'm also an accountant, so I'd like to know where's the data supporting your assertion that Electric Needle or the band is the 427th best indie pop band. Where's that data come from?
We're probably much lower. That number popped in my head. It was a slogan. I was just trying to stand out. It's funny because I did all kinds of weird stuff like that to try to promote my band. One time I played a show where a whole song we were playing live, and I played a whole song with a balloon on my head to see if I could do it, and stuff
right,
like that. You gotta stand out.
That seals it. All right, so I'm calling it. I'm saying that there's a heavy influence of They Might Be Giants.
Okay, we get that a lot
on the Electric Needle Room.
Yep. Honestly, though, I never really listened to them, but we get those comparisons a lot.
Is it just the two of you in the band?
Well, yeah, mostly. But all the President songs, though, are just me. Like, if you listen to recordings, it's just me. Yeah.
But is his name Matt, too?
No. His name's Steve, but his last name is also Beat. Yeah, we're the Beat Brothers, and he's a drummer, so that's very appropriate for him.
Well, that breaks the mold then, because They Might Be Giants is John and John, right? But no, there's a lot of similarities. The key changes, the time signature changes, the speeding up of the cadence of the lyrics to fit the measure, that sort of stuff. That a lot of echoes of They Might Be Giants there, as well as just the clever turns of phrase and the sort of non-standard. You're not singing about love and heartache, right? There's non-standard content in your songs. So there's a lot. I think it's great. I love They Might Be Giants. I love your stuff too. What I've heard of it, I haven't gone as deep into it as I intend to. What other influences would you say musically?
Mostly power pop and emo are the two genres I was really listening to a lot in high school, college. So like you might hear a little bit of Beach Boys influence. That's just because I like the harmonies I heard from Weezer, which he was also influenced by the Beach Boys, Rivers
Hmm.
Cuomo, you know. So uh, yeah, like just I think the thing is everybody likes a good hook and melody, you know, but like okay, what else you got? So a lot of times, like you were saying, like changing up the time signature, singing about weird stuff. Like I have a song about flossing. I have a song about um, how I don't like tomatoes. That's all I
Right. Well,
think. Yeah,
you have to go listen to Triangle Man by They Might Be
I know that
Giants.
song. Yeah,
Okay, there you go.
but you know your music, Roger. Yeah. Um, but yeah, just the quirkiness of it. Like, I'm also a fan of the genre noise pop, which is mostly associated with the band Flaming Lips. So if you like, the thing about the Flaming Lips are awesome, but they clearly knew that okay, we're not the best singers, so we're gonna have to like kind of get their attention other ways. Yeah, but they're still poppy songs. They're still catchy. So
I love the
So
Flaming Lips.
yeah, I'll let somebody else dive into and talk about your music.
So, the other thing with the music that you do, and we mentioned at the show, is you do the shows and you make government fun with music. And you actually, where you met was you met us through Walter at the Dole. It was it at the Dole Institute, Walter? You're on mute again.
Yes, it
Well,
was
yeah.
with Sarah.
I mean, we met through, I think, the Uncap handle, and he was looking for somebody to do a show about uncapping the house, or the reason that we have 435 members. He did a YouTube episode about that, and so he reached out to me, and so I did an interview that he kind of cut up and made into his great style.
yeah, everybody should watch that. It's just why do we have 435 members of Congress or of the House? Yeah.
Yeah, which is our web address. So I realize you can't see that with my mic.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Walter's the pitch man. Y435.org. You can go there. You can sign up to volunteer. You can sign our declaration, and you can make a donation.
It kind of goes into I'm reading The Concept of Representation right now, and by Hannah Plotkin. It was recommended to us early on by which guest was that?
Jeff Wallach.
Philip, yeah, first AEI guest. And a lot of some of the discussion of representation is about art, right? That what you're trying to do in art often is create a representation of something else that is either strikingly similar to or somewhat distinct from, like abstract art. And you're often trying to put your own kind of like spin on it. And the idea of a song, right, about a president, right, is like it's Mr. Beat's representation of said president, right? It's his version of them. And that's kind of what this play is that y'all are playing around with. No dad joke intended. We're trying to suss out how do we make a meme, a society-wide meme about that's like a representation of representation, right? That goes viral. And that was, I think, Kevin, or was that also Philip, who said there's a moral imperative. One must question whether or not there's a moral imperative to go viral. And so it's like, finding that probably repeated viral representations or memes of representation of this history. That's our job, I think, in a lot of ways in the weeks and months, and hopefully just weeks and months ahead of us.
Well, that animated piece that Jeff put together with the funnel and the population ball too big to fit in the funnel now.
Yeah.
I think that was brilliant. It's not a meme exactly, but it's a short video. I think that's brilliant. It gives the lesson very succinctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't make music like Mr. Beat, but I can do drawings on my Illustrator.
Well, we can put his music in the back. He can write the score.
Well, that actually would be a great idea.
That is. Well,
Yeah.
and since I'm the pitch man, I should let the listeners know we do have some volunteer openings that are being described in writing. They will be posted soon. Content editor being chief among those, but also there's really a spot for each and every one of you, no matter where you are in the nation in your walk of life. And again, go to the website. Link up with us, right? I mean, because ultimately these questions, the answers to these questions, what we're telling you in some ways, they lie through, a meaningful relationship and dialogue with us. So we're hoping to spread that message, and that starts with you showing up. So,
All right. So,
Jeff.
Mr. Beat, what is it for the listeners out there? What's your favorite video that you've made? I know that you mentioned the uncapping the house one already, and we already know that that's really important, and everybody needs to go watch that video. Okay. But after that video, what's the next video that they're going to watch? Or what's the next video they should watch?
It changes because it was for a while there. It was my video about where we went on the Oregon Trail. When I say we, my family and we spent more than 2 weeks driving the Oregon Trail, and I documented the whole thing. And we did it in an EV, which meant that we had to. It was an adventure, just like
Right.
the folks, the pioneers on the Oregon Trail, because we had to find a charging station. This was back in 2022, so charging stations were a little bit more sparse, especially in Wyoming, western Nebraska. But yeah, that was a while ago. So more recently, it's another video that kind of underperformed, but I really enjoyed making a video that was a simulation, hypothetical, like what if every single American president was in Squid Game for both season 1 and season 2. This is before season 3 came out, because I'm a big fan of that show, and it shows a lot about the leadership abilities of the presidents, because it's not just the physical endurance. There's a lot of skills you need to do well on that show, and ultimately the best leader, I thought, in that show did the best. At the same time, that doesn't mean the person who's morally good is always going to finish on top. So yeah, Squid Game presidents, just search it up. I'm the only one on the entire internet who's ever made a video about that.
This is the second time this has been referenced to me, this show. I haven't watched it, so I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh, so good.
Now, which of the songs of the presidents is your favorite that you made?
Probably the Lyndon Johnson song.
Oh, I love that one. And I think Lyndon Johnson's such a great character too. God, that was so good.
Yeah. That's cool.
All right. So I noticed on Twitter that you just took a trip around Ohio. And it looks like you stopped at the William McKinley. I just happened to take a trip around Ohio as well. I hit the Hayes, Harding, and McKinley libraries back.
We keep missing each other. You
I
went
know.
to Montpelier right before I did. And
we're on the same journey.
I was in McKinley too. What the heck? That's crazy.
So what did you think about that trip? You went to Garfield's house as well, which I'm so jealous of. I'm gonna go back to Ohio so I can get to Garfield's house. But what was your favorite? What did you take away from those events?
Yeah, definitely the Garfield Museum was the best. I went to the McKinley Museum, Garfield Museum, and then we also did D-Day Conneaut, which is possibly the world's largest D-Day reenactment. They do it every year, every August in this tiny town in northeastern Ohio called Conneaut. But I was with my friend Chris from Blogging Through History, so he collaborated, and we were just really impressed with the tour in particular. Like, the tour guides are really knowledgeable there, and 85% of the stuff that's in Garfield's house is authentic. Because usually when you go to a presidential house, or anywhere, I guess, any famous person house, you go inside, it's mostly replicas, actually. And so it was really impressive that they actually had the artifacts that were still there preserved.
Did you, so first, I was disappointed at the McKinley Museum.
Yeah, it was a bit underwhelming.
Yeah, because it was a lot of science, not a lot of McKinley presidency stuff.
They combine all the museums there, yeah.
Yeah. But while we were in Canton, we went to the First Lady house, the historic First Lady house that was Ida McKinley's, that the McKinleys lived in prior to becoming president, and that house was fantastic. Did you see that?
Yep, we went there as well. Very cool. You could see also like the street between where his old house was, and that was actually, or I'm sorry, his house that he had after that house, because there was two houses like that were on the same street. And William McKinley was famously the guy who just kind of hung out on his front porch when he ran for president in 1896, whereas his main opponent, William Jennings Bryan, was going all over the country, crisscrossing on a train, giving like 10 speeches a day to whoever showed up. William McKinley just sat on his porch and people came to him. So I think that was much smarter. Yeah, 750,000 people showed up to his porch to hear him speak. Yeah. Imagine if that happened today. That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Something off my lawn.
It was an Ohio thing because Warren Harding had the same thing. It was the front porch, you know.
And the first one to do it was Garfield.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's very interesting. And this comes back to our civic education thing we talked about earlier. Is like, what can you do as an individual citizen to help educate yourself? This, right? Go take your family to these houses. If you're in Virginia, visit Monticello, Mount Vernon, Montpelier. If you're in Ohio, visit the McKinley Museum, visit the First Lady House, visit the Garfield House. These are great things that you can be doing to help educate you and to share that civic education with the next generation, because that's really important.
And there's what Andrew Jackson was that the Hermitage that's in Tennessee.
That's a good one. I've been there. I did a video on him. Yeah.
Man, I was in Tennessee earlier this year. I went to the Johnson House, but I didn't make it to the Jackson House.
I haven't been there yet either, but so I'm there with you. We'll make a journey. Make a date.
Walter, have you been to any of these sites?
You know, I don't know that I have a lot to add to that conversation. What I have written down that I want to get to is Mr. Beat. We need more left-leaning guests. Do you have people to recommend to us?
Oh, wow.
Who would be interested in talking about uncapping the House with two right-leaning and one left-leaning dude?
Absolutely.
I'm Madison. Madison.
For some reason, like I've been trying to reach out to more Republicans, but maybe we can hook each other up, because I actually also have scored interviews with Democratic members of Congress, and I always try to bring up uncapping the House to them. Notice how I said try, because sometimes they don't want to talk about it. But yeah, I also met some left-leaning pundits as well, although I try not to watch too much of that stuff anymore, because it just like I kind of got burnt out last year. But yeah, like I've met some people, so I'll we'll chat.
Let's chat.
Yeah.
Well, as y'all were talking about that, what I was thinking about is, because Jeff mentioned it earlier, I did run for president. I was running around with horses. It was a lot of work. I was like, man, if I could just sit in my house and have people come to me, that does sound better. They can just come to me and pet the horses. I'll give them free rides.
Yeah.
You know why McKinley was able to do that? Because of his campaign manager, Mark Hanna, who said most famously, you know what the most important thing of politics is? The two most important things in politics are money, and I can't remember the second one.
Yeah. That's about right.
Yep. I wonder who paid for those 760,000 people to show up at McKinley's house in Ohio.
If they showed up to Canton, they took care of them for sure. There's free food all the time. Yeah, that's for starters.
Yeah. Man, this has been a great show, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Let's go around the horn and leave our listeners with some final thoughts. I'm going to go to Roger, Walter, and then Mr. Beat. I'm going to come to you. Make sure that you share your website and everything so people can follow you. Roger, final words for the night.
Experience is a brutal teacher. She gives the test first and the lesson after.
Nice.
Walter.
I don't care who you are, what your problems are. The solution lies in quality representation. If you come to understand what that means, I think your life will be transformed.
Dang. How do I follow this stuff? I was just looking at my my notes app and see if sometimes I have a profound thought and I'll put it in notes. The last thing I typed in notes was you can't really see that, but it says Gen Z. Gen Z, no assets, no prospects, no voice, no community. Yeah, like most of my students were Gen Z. Gen Z, like if you're under the age of 30, you're never probably going to own a house. Like you're very doomer. You're kind of, things are hopeless. And so I hope that you can reach especially that generation, like say, hey guys, this is actually the one all solution for real, like that can solve all the other problems that we have.
It's the fourth turning. There it is, the fourth turning.
I mean, you'd be surprised how many of them are open to this type of stuff. And also Georgism. Like, I never would have found out about Georgism. That's a whole nother thing you could talk about in a different episode. But yeah, these ideas that honestly, it's just, I said this earlier, but it's perplexing that I never even thought about uncapping the house until I was terminally online and finally came across somebody. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. I appreciate you having me on. IamMrBeat.com. That's my actual website. But if you just search Mr. Beat on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, I won't show up. Mr. Beast probably will. But if you keep scrolling down, then you'll see my videos. So
I love this. And this takes us back to the quarter life crisis that Mr. Beat disclosed, Jeff disclosed. I'll disclose mine as well right now. So to any folks out there going through it, going through the struggle, there is hope, right? And the hope comes through organized, structured thought. You can make things slightly less bad than they are currently for the next generation. And we do go through these cycles of ups and downs. But there is hope in this moment. And so seriously, to the Zoomers and the Boomers and the Alphas, no cap, we got your back.
I love it. I agree. I think there's a lot of hope out there. I know that Mr. Beat's right. There is a generation out there that feels hopeless, feels powerless, and I think even we're all kind of part of that, right? That's why we've met here, is we kind of feel that way. But we understand that we have free will, we have opportunity to make change. We live in a government of, by, and for the people, and whether it truly represents us right now or not, we have the ability to make sure that it does in the future. That's why we're doing this. That's why we created the representation station. That's why we have No Cap Fund. And that's why you need to go to www.y435, sign our declaration, sign up to volunteer, make a donation. We'd really appreciate it. So, Mr. Beat, we really appreciate you coming on the show again. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to the Representation Station. Don't forget to visit our website at www.y435.org and sign the Declaration for Representation. And don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on X at No Cap Fund, on Facebook, No Cap Fund, on YouTube at Uncap the House, and on Instagram at No Cap Fund. Thank you, and don't forget, peace, love, and representation.